Hi, my name's Eden Foster. I'm 22 years old and I just graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, and so technically I'm a senior on this voyage.
Knowing that you're the only person on the ship with your experience, how do you find ways to fit in?
One thing that I've learned is that it's okay if you don't completely fit in with the culture here. Um, there are so many different types of people and everyone's unique. So if you don't feel like you totally fit in, that is completely normal. So yeah, it's okay. I think the term fit in is a little unnecessary because you don't have to conform to everyone else, and you can just be yourself, and being comfortable with being yourself is what's important.
Awesome. How have you contributed to the shipboard community?
How have I contributed? Well, I'm on the DEI committee, so that's Diversion, Equity, and Inclusion, and I'm also part of the multiracial club. And I just try to promote a more inclusive environment on the ship and try to brainstorm ways to create a more inclusive environment, different events or different things that we can add to make things more inclusive, and also making sure that the education we're receiving, such as in global studies, is actually accurate, and we're actually learning things in a way that isn't America-centric, and that also guarantees a more inclusive education as well.
How have you been gravitating towards others who are similar to you? And have you been open and engaged in meeting new people?
I generally am pretty open and engaged to meeting new people, because I don't always like to be with people who are exactly like me, because I think that it's really interesting and unique to be friends with people who are really different from me. So I've honestly become friends with some of the faculty, some lifelong learners, and people from all around the world, people from Austria, people from Hungary, because I think just only being with friends who are like you, such as people of the same, class, people of the same race or ethnicity, people from the same area as you, people of the same gender, and especially people who are only from the United States, is a little boring, and you're not really learning that much. And you can learn so much from especially people who live abroad in other countries.
Awesome. How do you define an international student, and do you consider yourself an international student?
Well, considering this program is based out of Colorado State University, so technically, even though we're abroad and we're international, the actual university system is America-based. So from an American perspective, international students are any of the students who are coming onto this program not from America, which again is quite US-centric. However, for that definition, I do not consider myself to be an international student since I come from the United States. But I am half Japanese, and I do spend a lot of time in Japan, and so I do think that I can bring some international experience to the table here at SAS. And I do really like how SAS does include international students, as in students from other countries. There's also a lot of students who are from UWC, or United World College, and I think that that's a really cool thing that SAS does.
Do you have an outlet to express yourself on the ship, and do you feel seen and heard?
I definitely feel the most seen and heard when I'm in the multiracial club, and it really feels like the most safe space on the ship, with people who I feel do have a similar outlook and experience, especially when things on the ship are very white majority. So I just feel most at home there in that club. And in terms of outlets for expression, there are so many different clubs that people do. So there's dancing, there's Bollywood, there's El Club Latino. I personally have not ventured much into those because I'm really shy and I have stage fright. But I think that those are really cool outlets of expression. And for me personally, I feel most seen and heard in my one-on-one interactions with people and with my friends, and also just through like journaling, and maybe travel blogging. That's another thing that I like to do to express myself. So.
Awesome. How have you reassessed or assessed the privileges you may have had before arriving to the ship?
I mean, I feel like I have always been pretty aware of my privilege, considering I've traveled a lot in the past, and I've done mission trips and things like that, volunteering in communities that are more underprivileged or where poverty is really apparent. So that isn't really new to me. However, also on the flip side of that, coming on the ship, I am surrounded by and notice a lot more privileged people than me firsthand and very close to me, which is just like an interesting thing for me. It's not like I get jealous or anything like that, but sometimes, it can rub you the wrong way when you just hear certain comments or people who are being ungrateful despite being here, considering this program costs so much money. So that is one way that I have noticed privilege on the ship. And within myself too, I've been having to check myself when I am struggling on the ship or when I'm complaining about different things. I've been like telling myself it's a privilege for me to be here and I should be really grateful, because a lot of people are not able to have this experience. So that's the way that I've been checking myself for my privilege.
What is the difference of your experience at your home university versus the semester at sea community?
In terms of the community and like the ethnic makeup, it's somewhat similar. It is very white. And those of us who are multicultural, we tend to really bond together and unite and just be friends simply for that safe space, to know that it's a safe space. And it's also somewhat similar in terms of like the party and drinking culture. I come from a party school, so I'm sort of used to that. But obviously, life on a ship is very different from life at home, so that's a big difference. It's also a much smaller community here than my university at home, so in a lot of ways it does feel a lot more like high school than it does like my university, because it's big enough that you don't know everyone, but you can recognize a lot of people's faces, and it's a pretty small community. So.
How do you manage yourself in a way that's respectable in other countries, and what do you do to listen and learn more in those countries?
So I am very passionate about this. So before SAS, I had already traveled to over 20 countries, so I had some experience, and I'm really passionate about being an ethical traveler and being a respectful traveler, and with SAS being a lot of people's first time traveling, I sometimes see issues with that. So for me personally, I try to really absorb the culture firsthand as much as possible, instead of just trying to get Instagrammable experiences out of travel or just going to bars or clubs. I like to really learn firsthand from people there. So either making friends with locals or staying in a hostel or doing tours where you're talking with a local or being led around by a local, eating the foods there, and being respectful too to servers and waiters when you're in the place that you're visiting. Trying to learn some of their language is really important too. So before I go to a country, I always try to at least know how to say hi, thank you, please, things like that. Yeah.
What was the biggest culture shock when you got on the boat?
Well, I got on the boat a week late because I was a close contact. So when I got on the boat, it seemed like everyone already was really clicking. It seemed like a lot of people had already found their friends or their friend groups, and they had spent more time on the ship getting to know each other, and I just showed up and I was a new face. So people, yeah, I did feel a little bit like I had to fight to make friends. I also, I was surprised by the drinking culture in port, and how surprising and shocking it is sometimes with certain students who spend most of their time in port drinking or trying to be drunk the whole time. But again, this isn't the majority of people, and that doesn't represent SAS. So that was surprising to me. And yeah, like I said, just the clickiness and the drama was a bit surprising to me. I had always heard that, everyone was friends with everyone on SAS and everyone's super friendly, and unfortunately that's not the case anywhere. So I don't know why my expectations were so high for that, because of course there's always going to be drama, there's always going to be people who don't like each other, things like that. But yeah.
What has been the most positive thing about semester at sea?
It's easy to talk about the negatives since nobody talks about them, but everyone always raves about the positives because there are a lot of positives. SAS is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and living on a ship is a really unique experience that a lot of people don't get. And getting to travel to 11-ish countries within a certain span of time for study abroad is also very, very unique. And just the environment on the ship, like taking classes and also living with your professors and constantly being around your friends and your classmates, you get to form really unique connections that you wouldn't otherwise off the ship. And you're going through so much together too, not only on the ship but also in port, that you form really rich and deep connections, whereas when you're at home it's easy to just kind of like hide in your room and be away from people. So yeah, you're constantly surrounded by people, you're learning so much from other people, you meet a ton of people, you become friends with a lot of people, and also getting to learn firsthand, like what you learn by traveling to these new countries and learning firsthand in port is a complete new experience, unlike anything you can get in a classroom.
Awesome. And the last question, what is one thing you wish you would have heard before embarking on this voyage?
I wish that I would have had more realistic expectations, but also that I knew even if it doesn't meet your expectations or you face disappointments, don't let that get you down to where you're not grateful for your experience. One thing that I am taking into the second half of this voyage is just gratitude. Even though a lot of things have not gone as expected on this voyage and SAS looks a lot different now than it used to, I still am so grateful to be here, and I want to continue to be grateful for every single day that we have here, even if it's not exactly what I thought it would look like.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.